Hello and welcome to SOUQ Pulse. This is a very beautiful day. And for everyone out there, I want to say thank you very much for being with us all this while on SOUQ News and also on your program, SOUQ Pulse. Here we talk, and so we will talk. And for everyone that have sent us messages, comments, things you like, things you don't, things you want us to improve on, and those messages that we'll reserve and maybe frame, I want to say thank you very much. Remember, you can always reach us via our social media handles. Just go straight to SOUQ News TV, be it YouTube, be it Facebook, be it on Twitter, X, be it on the fast-moving one, TikTok, and those ones that are very good for the younger ones. Hey, just go ahead, reach us there, send your messages, and we are sure to reply. Then for the programs you think we should do something to patch, make it faster, make it slower, or get it to a pace that you love, let us also get to know. Today happens to be that particular day where we'll just sit and reflect and thank God for the journey thus far. For every Nigerian, I say, happy independence. So it doesn't matter where you are, it doesn't matter the strata where you work, the sector where you contribute to, where you get your hands dirty and put food on the table. I want to say thank you very much. For those that have jackpot, I also want to say thank you very much for sending money back home. And for those also looking forward to doing that. But one thing is sure, there is nowhere like home. That is where the heart is. So wherever you are and you have this Nigerian blood in you, we celebrate you. And we'll always celebrate you. But always remember that no matter how beautiful outside is, we must build where we call home. Charity, they say, leaves the house first. It doesn't just begin at home. So you get beautiful from the house and you go outside. So for every nation having Nigerians doing beautiful things, stand up and salute us. That's where the beauty came from. So for every single one, we will talk on SOUQ Pulse. And today we are going to a sector that employs over 60% of people. Not just employees. Put food on the table of Nigerian families. It keeps the economy running and going and grounding. And we will also be having a guest from that particular sector. So I won't open up this can of beautiful things. So don't think it's going that route. My name is SOUQ, John Rogers SOUQ. I am your regular face on this side of the o'clock when it comes to SOUQ News. We'll go on a very short break. When we return, we'll get to talk and talk some more. Don't go anywhere. This is SOUQ News. This is SOUQ Pulse. This is your program. Let's get it started. Yes, welcome. It's SOUQ Pulse. So for those wondering, don't worry. It's SOUQ Pulse and it happens to be our independence. So you are having that celebration going on and beautiful bright colors in the studio today. My name is SOUQ, John Rogers SOUQ, and today we are looking at MSMEs, micro, small and medium enterprises. Yes. So let's break it down. The guy that gets to fix your tire, we're talking about him. The mechanic in Apo, the mechanic in Kaswangwari, the mechanic in any of those mechanic villages across the country. We're talking about him. We're talking about the vulcanizer, the guy that fixes your tire. We're talking about the farmer. Yes. You know them all around. We're talking about the small person that is having one big, small kiosk, big, small supermarket, one manufacturing industry that is not a big conglomerate. We are talking about every trader out there. The people trying to bring their ideas and getting other people involved directly or indirectly. Those are the people we are talking about today. Small, medium, micro businesses across Nigeria. They are the backbone of this economy. And we'll be looking at, okay, what has been the survey? What has been the lifeline? Wow. How have they fared in the last 365 days? We are celebrating 64. What is the survey? And going forward, what can we tweak? There's no better person to talk on this than the president of the Association of Small Business.
Yes, good afternoon. Happy Independence, and good to be in your studio once again on your program. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, let's get this ball rolling before we decide to hit it. Now, if we look at there's this particular survey that was released sometime in August. It's more of end of the year from PricewaterhouseCoopers, and they picked up the MSMEs, that particular sector, and they were asking, okay, good, how have we fared? Now, we can't take ourselves away from this particular equation because we are all in this sector. So if they do well, we do well. If we are not doing well, we are not doing well. So we can't separate ourselves. It's not possible. So how have we fared? So how have Nigerians fared? Because they are Nigerian. So now, this is the major indices, and we'll take it one after the other. And I want you to talk on this, not just telling us experiences, but also let's just be frank and talk. If we can argue, no problem. But let's be frank so that people out there will know that, yes, this needs to be fixed and this is how far we've gone. They were looking at first issues raised were first decreased demand. Now, decreased demand in products from small, medium scale enterprises. These are things that we're looking at. They were looking at, okay, good, high prices and low customer spending power. That was the first major thing they ruled out and wrote there. A. Now, let's now come back to the business owners. How is this affecting product creation, product selling, and product buying?
All right, thank you. Let me start from where you started. You said we are creating more than 50% of the jobs. I want to say here that we hold 96% of all businesses in Nigeria, the SMEs. But the MSMEs hold 96% of the entire businesses we have in Nigeria, meaning that the Dangote of this world, the MTN and all of that, are just acting in a space of 4%. That gives you the kind of value we have in the economy. At the same time, too, we contribute 48% to the national GDP, and we employ 84% of the workforce, meaning that for every worker in Nigeria, we have 84% of that working with us. The remaining 26% is shared between government and other big corporate organizations, meaning that we are also doing very well in the economy, in igniting and acting as the engine of growth of the economy. Now, coming to your question about lack of demand to the market, lack of market demand. Yes, that's really so. That's one of the major challenges we are facing now. In fact, according to the report you referred to, done by PricewaterhouseCoopers, it states that 40% of businesses have failed because of lack of market demand for their products or for their services. And this is because the consuming power, the buying power of the consumers have reduced drastically. It has reduced drastically because of inflation and other macroeconomic issues that are facing every Nigerian now. So we now sell less than what we used to sell because the demand is not there. And it's really affecting us. So you can imagine 40% of businesses failing because of lack of market demand. But then as business owners, we cannot continue to fold our hands and expect just to wait for when it will be better. We are taking our issues right straight on. We are working on how we can begin to also expand our market so that we can have more demand or elsewhere if we cannot have it locally. And that is taking many of us to export. Now, quite a number of MSMEs are already going to export. We're exporting to African countries, particularly the ECOWAS countries. We're also exporting now to the global markets. That makes us more competitive and has been able to also expand our market. We're happy that the African Continental Free Trade Area has become realistic now and it's playing out. Some of our members are also taking advantage of this, exporting to other African countries where they don't need to really pay levies or duties before they cross border. It becomes borderless. So we're doing a lot in cross-border trades, and that is also helping at this time. we're equipping our members with quite a number of technology that will help them to scale up and embrace social media. So we're embracing social media also to sell our products and services across the world so that we can open our market. We're also improving on our standards. We know that for us to be able to compete globally, we need to push up our standards, the standards for our products and our services. And that's exactly what we are also doing at the moment. We also keep building our capacities.
Before we get to several of this initiative that is ongoing to get services better and get this sector not just the negatives but make sure that businesses thrive, because most people might not understand it. When people say businesses thrive, let's bring it back home. The person that steps out from his house in the morning, gets back, does the job, and is able to put food on the table, which affects the next man and affects the next man. Now, let's look at this low customer spending power. Is there a way, because we are still Nigerians, we have to still sell to Nigerians, even if the businesses must survive and have to export to survive. Is there a way whereby we look at being able to also, in a way, I might not understand, cater for the Nigerian market? If we have to reduce the size that they buy per time, or if we have to reduce something, but how can it be done so that even the Nigerian market can also benefit from the services or the products coming from Nigerian manufacturers, Nigerian businesses, even if it's financing on behalf of the buyer?
Yes, we are aware of that, and that is our priority too, to make sure that we perform locally well before going globally. So locally, I must say that we have really saturated quite a lot of markets, quite a lot of hinterlands with our products and services. And for it to be affordable to Nigerians, I must say here that we've reduced our profit margin to the barest minimum because we want Nigerians to be able to afford it. Inflation is really eating every sector of the economy, and we are not left out. Our inputs, most of it are imported, our equipment are imported. So we are contending heavily with inflation and the high cost of bringing in all of this. But we have decided to cushion the effects by reducing our profit margin. We have also decided to, like you rightly mentioned, to go down to small packages, small sizes. So instead of packaging our products in bigger forms, we have come to the point of packaging them in very smaller sizes that will be affordable to consumers. In fact, we've gone to a point whereby to some bigger malls that sell our products in quantity, we give them some form of credit facility and some form of after sales payment, so that they can also use that to push markets to the local consumers. We are also ensuring that our local consumers have a value for what we buy, even as at that we are contending with very high costs. We still ensure that the quality still remains what it used to be when the going was good, so that Nigerians can get good value for whatever they're buying. We are trusting in God that if the economy improves, because we are hopeful and optimistic that the economy will improve over time, that Nigerians will be able to buy more. So we are also aware that we must continue to remain in the market so that by the time the dynamics change, we will still be relevant in the market. The minimum wage will soon go live. We also believe that it will empower Nigerians a bit more to buy more and open up more market for us. So we are determined. We are strategically placing ourselves in the market so that we continue to be relevant. We are aware also that a lot of products are coming to Nigeria as so to speak, dumping them here and are competing very heavily with our products. So we must continue to be innovative to remain in the market, not just remain in the market, to be the market leader, so that other products coming in will not push us out when the situation of the economy improves. Because we strongly believe that the economy will improve, or the other way around, we will become creative enough to overcome the challenges of the economy and remain healthy and scaled.
Very much. I like it when there was a line you said before you added a whole lot of knowledge down the line. You said when the going was good. Then you came down and said, what you know is that this economy will improve, or we will face the challenges and subdue it. That's good. Now, let's also look at the part B of what also came out of that survey from this consulting firm, they were looking at financial constraint, but they were looking at it from 4 angles. Now, primarily, the MSMEs get funds majorly from family, friends, or small loans from banks. Now, one major thing they were looking at is the loans coming from banks, because those that are your angel investors or those close to you, they might not give you interest. They might just, okay, good, go continue, do well. If you can pay, good. But now that's coming from banks across board. The interest rate is not smiling. And we've seen the central bank do these meetings quarter after quarter, and we see interest rate going high. Are you at any point in time envisaging that this interest rate that is double digits and almost heading to 28 is going to ever come down?
Well, we really don't think so. We don't think so, because in the economy we live, we hardly see fees, prices of goods and commodity, and government billings coming down. It hardly happens here. So we are not really expecting that. Already, although we are really shocked that MPR continues to increase at every sitting, and that to us is anti-business. Yes, it is said that it is done to fight inflation and for other positive outcomes. But if you ask me, these outcomes are not really seen on the street. We are not feeling it in our businesses and in our daily lives. However, like I told you, we have decided to draw a big line between what we have control over and what we do not have control. Some of the things we may not have control over is the interest rate of the banks. So for that reason, we have decided we want to begin to cut down costs as much as possible. So we are employing technology to do our business such that we need less staff now, although that also will result in some form of unemployment. We are also using technology to perform some statutory roles that ordinarily would have been contracted out to other third parties. We're already using technology to serve those roles. We're also using technology to market our product now. So instead of our vehicles moving around the streets of the states, whichever state it is, trying to market our goods, we use technology to now get our market and sell it wherever or whoever we want to sell it to. More importantly is that we are now sourcing for fund outside the country. We have been able to get some sources where we can get funding even at single-digit interest rates. Some of us in the association and in other associations also are now working with even some the non-governmental organization to get grants for our members. So we are looking away now from the bank, the loan from the bank, because the interest rate is actually killing. It is anti-business, and you can hardly see any business that can sustain the kind of interest rate we have today in the bank. So we have decided to help ourselves with international funding, and it is really, really, really giving us a lot of relief. Time will come where we may not begin to need the bank loans. At that time, I'm sure it will be the banks that will be running after us, begging us, and one of our conditions will be that if you want us to play a game with you, you have to drop your interest rates. By the time we begin to preach that to the banks, I'm sure the banks will also go back to CBN and advise them against this arbitrary increase in interest rates. Yes, I'm also sure that now that this is the third or the fourth time that the interest rate is being jacked up, I'm sure that the government will have seen now that arresting inflation is not primarily by increasing interest rates. And I do believe that there will be a hold on increasing interest rates in the next MPR sitting.
If we say there's a decrease, is it going to be 50%? Okay, just that's not a question. Now, let's look at another major challenge the report also brought out. This is a report compiling the last 365 days. Now, they were looking at tax burden for SMEs, and they were looking at, okay, first, multiple taxation from not just government, but agencies that act as government and are not also government. And also looking at that of VAT being paid on the same product on different chains of production or sales. And all this is affecting both the producer and the product and the buyer at the long run. Now, from your own side of it, how do you think government can deal with both the multiple taxation, both from government actors and non-state actors, and the VAT that is collected in different sides on same chain line?
Yes, we've been able to engage with the Fiscal and Tax Reform Committee headed by Mr. Tayo Oyedele quite a number of times, and we've not just spoken our mind and our suggestions, we have also submitted our white paper. And one of the recommendations is that tax just must be harmonized. Tax must be harmonized at all levels, at the federal and subnationals. You will be surprised that the taxes that the local government do charge at times are even more cumbersome and worrisome than that of the federal government. So we have recommended that that has to be more harmonized. That's one. Secondly, is that when we want to pay for tax, it has to be through one window. One window. Whatever tax is expected from an organization should be paid through just one window. When we are supposed to pay all of these taxes and it is combined and it's a particular amount and we pay, the agency in charge will now distribute it according to the different revenue generating agencies that are supposed to be part of that tax. That helps a lot. By that, we'll be able to know the exact tax you should pay as a business owner. We also recommended that human interface should be reduced to the barest minimum when it comes to the payment of taxes, thereby removing all these hoodlums that call themselves tax agents and all of that from the value chain, so that we'll deal directly with technology and pay even in the comfort of our office. We also recommended again that governments should remove as much as they can corruption from the line. Corruption is also one element that is mitigating against small business owners wanting to pay tax. We don't want to pay tax, and we know that the value would not be seen or felt in the community or in the country at large. That to us is a big, big, big issue. We also recommended again that government should begin to look at being more transparent with tax issues, such that there should be a website whereby all the taxes, every level of strata of businesses should pay, should be on a particular website that you can read and get to know what it is. And by the time you have to pay, there should be no hidden charges or no hidden terms and conditions that will make a tax that is written in the website 3,000 to eventually go to 30,000 or 50,000. These are some of the recommendations we have sent to government. But I'm happy that the president has chosen to give a listening ear to some of these recommendations, because the last declaration from the presidency shows that they're actually working on harmonization of taxes because the president has approved it. I'm also happy that in the
there are two other major points they highlighted in the challenges in the last calendar year, their own calendar year. Now, you've spoken to one, that's operational challenges, but this particular one is not just affecting MSMEs, it's affecting everybody. But I want you to look at it from the side of the person in this business, not just in it, but heading it. Now, they're looking at high energy cost. Now, the first thing that comes to my mind is, okay, good. On weekends, I have to go cut my hair, and the salon needs to use generator if there is no power. And if there is power, they will pay more than I do because they are in one particular band or the other. Now, how have this cost affected the small businesses by the corners, the ones we don't know, the ones in the market, the person going out every day to grind a living, employ one person, two people? High energy costs, be it from the fuel, be it from the power generation, be it from the grid. To what extent has it affected in the last 365 days?
The impact has been very negative, very, very negative, because the increments in electricity tariff has been so huge that it is difficult for businesses to absorb. In fact, in some households, as electricity bill now is cumulatively in a year is more than their house rent. You can imagine that. For us in business, it's no good news. And many already are closing shop. Many already are closing shop because of this issue of electricity, because it has really jacked up our cost of doing business. Our cost of doing business has been very high before now. Then adding this electricity tariff to it is enough to break the camel's back. So we have, fortunately, some businesses closing up because of this high tariff, particularly small businesses. There are some businesses, according to the recent research done, that most of the small businesses we have around now has a turnover of less than 50,000 naira monthly. Some of them has less than 300,000 naira monthly as turnover. In fact, 64.5% of small businesses today has less than 50,000 naira as a turnover. And some of these businesses has electricity bill more than 50,000 naira in that month. So you now begin to wonder, how do they survive? How do they survive? So the productivity of many businesses has reduced. You go to some barber's shop now, you see them not operating where there's if there's no electricity, they will not operate because they cannot afford to buy fuel. They just manage with a PHCN. You see them now innovating, also getting for themselves rechargeable clippers to barb and all of that. But some of these cannot be adopted in some form of businesses, and it's so killing. So unfortunately, when all of these costs come up, most of it is being passed to the consumer, the end consumer. And the end consumer is already impoverished. His purchasing power has been eroded. You now begin to wonder what happens. And you go to hospital now, you see that it is flooded with people in the hospital because many are now suffering from depression. Many are sick because they cannot make ends meet. There's suffering, there's hunger in the land. We are just hopeful that the government will be pathetic enough to feel our heartbeat and say that something just must be done. You cannot say you want to remove subsidy all across board. There's some area of the economy that government must just subsidize, particularly to sustain economy and, more importantly, to sustain the MSME that are playing critical role in that sector.
Today, being our independence, Nigeria's independence, we'll get better, we'll grow bigger, and we will surmount every challenge. Right down that way. Now, we are looking at SMEs. We're looking at MSMEs, micro, small, and medium enterprises. Now, we are looking at the report from PricewaterhouseCoopers, and we also be looking at that from Lagos State Employment Trust Fund. That we looked at in the first half. And we have a guest who happens to be our president, the president of Association of Small Business Owners of Nigeria. You are shocked? People are wondering, yes, he is our president. So if you are in any form of business, wherever you are, mark present. And we have Dr. Femi Egbesola in the house. And now we are going to the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund, LSETF. Now they have this recap for the same sector for 2023, 2024. So I'll only be looking at the key points that was mentioned out. The first one, they were looking at the federal, they said from their report, the federal government's policies and action exposed MSMEs to numerous challenges and few opportunities in the last 365 days. What do you say to that?
Very, very correct. Very, very correct. We are faced with quite a number of enormous challenges for the past 1 year or so. It has never been this bad in the history of we doing business in Nigeria, particularly those of us in the small business sector. This is a time that we experience the death of most small businesses because the statistics shows that about 20% of small businesses are dead or ailing. That's about 8 million. That's a lot of numbers, and that's no good. We have a situation whereby small business owners are dumping their businesses and embracing mania jobs, embracing Okada riding, Marwa riding. Some have gone back to farm, not to do real farming business, but just subsistence to keep body and soul together. We have small business owners dropping their business to travel to other countries in the name of Japa just to look for greener pastures because Nigeria is no longer conducive for them to do business. It's really a bad time. But of course, like you did say in the report, some few opportunities are there. In any situation you have to get some opportunities also in it because challenges in itself provide for you certain opportunities. One of the opportunities we've been able to explore this time around is that it has forced us to think outside the box. We have been forced to think outside the box, and we've been able to do things differently. And that's what is keeping us afloat. We are also thankful that the government have been able to preserve the peace and unity of the country. If the country has scattered, because this year alone, today we should be witnessing the second or third protest. That alone can disintegrate some economy or some country. So we say have unity in the country, we say have peace that we can operate our business within, and to us that is a good enough for us to operate, because we cannot do business in a situation or economy that is not peaceful. We have embraced a lot of newer ways, better ways of doing businesses that is expected to bring certain outcomes in very short time that will help us be able to do more business in an innovative and creative way to bring us more profit. But for now,
can I let me add this? Let me add this because I want this to be part of your thoughts that you are dishing out right now. Now, from that particular first key point that they raised from their own recap, emphasis on federal government policies. I reading through that recap, I had to stammer a bit. I didn't see Lagos state policies too. Do you think we should also see Lagos state policies affect?
The kind of government we operate here is such that the federal government always sets the tone and dictates the music. You see that all state policies are always in tandem with federal government policies. And major policies, major economic and fiscal policies come from government. When it comes to floating of the naira, there's nothing any state can do about floating of the naira. When it comes to a hike in electricity tariff, there's nothing any state can do about it. When it comes to raising up the pump price of fuel, there's nothing the state can do about it. When it comes to the introduction of new taxes, there's nothing the state government can do about it. So more or less everybody looks up to the center. And if you look at policies also, when it is to be domesticated locally, you see them having 70, 80, 90% of the federal government content in the local content that is domesticated in the different states. And that's the challenge we have. In some climate, many states are independent. They can decide to shape their destiny the way they feel will be good for their citizens in that particular state. We have not gotten there, but we will get there. I must also use this opportunity to appraise and say thank you to the Lagos state government. My appraisal about them is that they've been doing wonderfully well in supporting MSMEs in that state. And the reason for thanking them is because some of these things they've done that seems so very, very small is yielding big fruit, yielding real big fruit, because while many businesses are dying in other states, businesses are growing and scaling up in Lagos state. And they are also good for it because when businesses grow, the state will also be able to get more revenue in the form of taxes and other levies. So it's a symbiotic thing. I also wish that other states can emulate the Lagos state to be able to, while they cannot really reshape policies, but provide intervention and cushioning effect, soft landing policies that will help to cushion whatever is coming from the center. I think that is key if the state government really want to sustain the MSMEs in their states.
Okay, thank you very much for that tick mark. Now, the second part of that recap that they also gave was this. They said increasing cost of capital and inflation remain a major challenge for SMEs. Now, you've talked about that, both from the survey from PwC and that from LSETF. Then you also talked about the MSMEs should embrace inexpensive capital, skill, and access to information for leverage. But now they were talking about, okay, good, come to us and things will work. To what extent are businesses coming to LSETF and things are working?
Well, going by the mega budget they have, because I am privy to some of their back-end information, going by the mega budgets and resources they have, I think they are doing wonderfully. Because every year they give out grants to thousands of people. The last grants went to as far as 6,000 beneficiaries. These are money you don't pay back. You don't see government doing that. The grant government did recently was giving 50,000 naira to small business. You now wonder what would 50,000. But this Lagos state government give grant even as much as 5 million naira to just an enterprise. That is That is a good one in the right direction. And the number of loans
Sorry to
that we
cut
are.
you. Sorry to cut you. When you give a businessman or a businesswoman 5 million, do you follow up?
Of course, of course. Following up is in two ways. First, the LSTF also have their own mechanism for monitoring and evaluating whatever fund they give out. They have business service support providers attached to beneficiaries of their fund that continue to monitor the beneficiary from A to Z of the lifespan of that loan. Also, in our association and every other associations too, most of the beneficiaries come from the different business membership organizations. We also have a structure in place to monitor whoever gets certain fund from us because we know that if they don't pay back the fund, LSTF will still give us a knock on the head and may also put us in their negative light. It is our responsibility to ensure that funds are used for the right and intended purpose and are paid back if it is a loan. And that's exactly what we are doing. I must tell you right here and now that today's business owners are paying back loans very well. If you look at the records of LSTF and even many of the bank records now, you will discover that we have come to develop that culture of borrowing and repaying back. One of the reasons for this is that our capacities have been built to a point where we can manage our business better. We have more information, more skill to be able to run business better. And for that reason, we're able to run our business in such a way that we can pay back loans. And that's why you see the debt profile of the banks dropping now by the day, because we are already imbibing that culture. And I am sure that in no distant time, you will discover that some banks or most banks will not need collateral to borrow out again because integrity will come before collateral. And that's already what we are building as an association and as all actors in the MSME ecospace.
I want you to speak to this. Now, according to the Price Waterhouse Cooper report, they said, and they've put this out there, that there is a $32.2 billion financing gap faced by MSMEs. Is this something that is very relevant? Or is
Of
the
course,
figure too high, too low, or is just out there?
I will say that that figure is conservative because the gap we have is much more than that, far much more than that. There's a lot of finance gap, a lot of finance gap in the MSME sector. And why this is the reason is because the financial institutions that are supposed to be advancing funds for MSMEs are not really interested, so to speak, in MSMEs. They are willing to give out their funds to borrow to government, to buy stocks, to give to bigger organizations, and all of that at the detriment of the MSMEs. And the gap will continue to build up if government does not intervene. There was a policy some time ago that says that 5% of all bank profit must be put back to support MSMEs. This is on paper, but in the reality, it has not been playing out. We need government to come up and enforce this policy so that banks will be more responsible to their oversight function. And one of it is supporting MSMEs to grow and by advancing them forward. We are also creating other platforms to support ourselves when it comes to financing so that we can bridge this gap. One of it is that we are now launching what is called an SME microfinance bank that is being spearheaded by SMEDAN to be able to advance funds better for MSMEs. We're also launching the SME bank itself. The first one I mentioned is SME microfinance bank. Then the next one is the SME commercial bank that will focus primarily on MSMEs. And when this is up, we are sure that it will also help to reduce the finance gap. I must say also that quite a lot of development partners are dropping a lot of funds to support MSMEs. A lot of funds is coming into this economy to support MSMEs. But unfortunately, many of these funds, for one reason or the other, do not get to the real MSMEs that are supposed to have the fund. And that's where we have the pains. But we are sure that in no distant time, we will be able to help ourselves by making sure that these two banks operate because we are already there as a critical stakeholder, both as the SME microfinance bank and the SME commercial bank that is on the way. Hopefully, the SME microfinance bank should kick off in November this year. That is next month, or worst case December this year. While the commercial bank should come up in the first quarter of next year. I'm sure it will be a veritable platform for international organizations to now put fund, drop there to support MSMEs and close some of this finance gap for MSMEs that we have at the moment.
Okay, thank you very much. That is a whole lot of very good information coming out there. So for everyone watching this program for today, or will get to watch it later, just pick up your diary and write it down. There is solution and light. There is no tunnel now. There's just light down the line. Don't give up. Now, when we were talking about financing, we had these headlines that I'll just take two. There are several of them. I'll read them out, then I'll ask you directly, like personally, some personal questions. Now, this was in January. This was in January. From December, headline: Federal Government Bank of Industry to disburse 75 billion loans at 9% interest in January. In April, 200 billion intervention fund for MSMEs. I want to stop here because the headlines are much. You see a whole lot of them. We compiled a lot of them. Now, in the last 365 days, we've seen these headlines all over the place, and they came from government quarters. So, how these funds were they assessed?
Well, very sincerely and honestly, SMEs are unable to access most of these funds, and that's unfortunate. The funds most times are disbursed, but the question is to who? Most times, some of these funds are disbursed to very big organizations that we call large companies. You can see giving maybe half of that fund to just one organization. One organization is enough to take 50 billion out of the 75 billion you mentioned. And unfortunately, most of these development banks prefer giving this kind of fund to bigger organizations on the plate that they will pay back on time, and they are sure that they have the structure to pay back, and the detriment of millions of MSMEs that are supposed to benefit from it. So we have not been accessing many of this intervention fund coming from development banks like Bank of Industry, Development Bank of Nigeria, Bank of Agriculture, Nigerian Import and Export Bank, and all of that. And that has been a big challenge for us. We've been advocating time and again that when intervention fund must be done by government, critical stakeholders must be part of the creation, implementation, and monitoring of those disbursement of the fund so that it will be transparent and the real business owners will be able to have it. Most times, it is political business owners that have this fund at the detriment of the real business owners. And this has to stop. That's why we will continue to advocate. And I'm happy that you're also creating a platform for us through your TV station to advocate that this just must stop. We must not continue to hear about billions and trillions in the pages of newspapers going to MSMEs, and the predicament of MSMEs are getting worse. What a mismatch.
What a mismatch. Those were words that should ring in our heads on the continuum. I want to say thank you very much for coming on SOUQ Pulse, and once again, I want to say happy independence. One thing I like, it's your positive, not just the nature, but your positive outlook, and you just look at tomorrow and say business will do well, the economy will do well, Nigeria will do well. Thank you very much, sir, for coming on SOUQ Pulse.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you for always being there for us, particularly in the MSME sector. We believe that Nigeria will be better. We are seeing it, and we'll do all we can to put our hands on deck to make it better. And we also believe that things can never go this way. One day, the light will always be at the end of the tunnel, and we'll be all together to celebrate it, perhaps at the 65th happy independence of Nigeria.
Thank you very much. To everyone out there, remember, this is our independence, and we have to be the difference. We have to be that change we seek. So it doesn't matter what we are going through today. It's challenging, definitely, but we'll rise up to it. And we will do better. We will work harder. We will work smarter. And we will talk. And we will also point our hands and ask people to be accountable for assignments and responsibilities given to them. This is SOUQ Pulse, and you know we love you. This is SOUQ News, and you know for sure that we love you. Have yourself a beautiful, beautiful evening and celebrate in peace. Remember, love your neighbor. Don't send him out. My name is Chooks, John Rogers Chooks. On behalf of every one of us and the crew producing this beautiful work of art, have yourself a beautiful celebration. Bye.